Hey everybody, this is Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome to my second episode of the Out of the Park Baseball 19 playthrough with the Phillies. I've simmed ahead all through the off season. I figured out not a whole lot happened, and there was no point in boring you guys with some of that stuff. So we are right now at the start of spring training. I've got all my lineup set, and we're ready to go. Sim through a few weeks of that, or might get through the whole thing today. We'll see what the team looks like going into the regular season. But I wanted to go through the moves that I did make in the off season. Not a lot. I'm finding a hard time pulling the trigger on some of these some of the free agents that I'm seeing available, and I didn't do a whole lot of transactions over the off season. But the moves that I did make, I think, are going to help my team out a little bit, and we'll go over that here to start the episode. The first thing I did was I traded Evan White, who was disgruntled, and he expected to be the starter, and he's just not good enough to be the starting first baseman on the team that I have with the other guys that I have on there. So I traded him away to St. Louis and picked up another first baseman to replace him. And this guy's got great defense at first. He's got his personality class is prankster, but at least he's not. Hopefully not too disruptive. I'll take a look at that in a minute. But he's 27, about 28 years old. His ratings look pretty good, and I think he would be a good pick to put in there with the first baseman, the young first baseman that I'm going to go with to start the season. But mainly, it gets rid of Evan White. That was the primary thing there. And then in the Rule 5 draft pick, I lost Freeman from last year, who was one of those guys who played a lot of positions. His ratings were okay, but same reason I let him go to free agency, because he was disgruntled. He wanted to be a starter. So I felt like I needed someone who can play several infield positions for me and come off the bench and pinch hit and fill in when I got some injuries. And this guy's only rated at a 1.5 star, but his individual batting ratings are really high. I like his contact and avoiding Ks and gap power. And he is solid in really 3 positions, but he can even play right field if I need him, and center if I'm getting really desperate. So I thought that was a good pick for the Rule 5 draft. And then I did re-sign Canaan Smith, which he's going to be my catcher now again, at least for the next year. The contract was pretty generous in a way. It's about a $10 million a year average, but that third year is a vesting option, and I really doubt that he'll get to that vesting option. It's 400 plate appearances, and he might. I played him a little bit more last year, but I plan on platooning him more this year, so we'll see how it shakes out. But if he's not performing, I don't know if he'll be the starter a year into this contract. And so that satisfies, for one thing, that'll satisfy my owner's goal of re-signing Canaan Smith for what it's worth. So that'll give him one less thing to be mad at me about. And then the last thing that I did with the offseason, well, no, I'll take that back. I did sign Ali Sanchez, another catcher, and just as a backup. He's got great defensive catching ratings. He's wanting to be in the starting lineup, but that's not going to happen. And I just felt like I needed a better backup catcher than what I had. So, and it wasn't a tough contract. I think the contract is, it was a minor league contract with a major league option. So he's not going to get anything really if he doesn't make that 40-man roster out of spring training. And then the last signing was Jorge Morel, which he has no statistics yet. He hasn't played in the majors yet, but I'm pretty happy with his pickup. I'm excited about it. He's a 4.5 star overall. 2 really solid pitches. I hope to use this guy as setup, and his stuff is high as you can get in the ratings, and his changeup as high as you can get. And the contract, he's only 26, 3 years, right around $3.5 million average a year. I thought that was a pretty good deal. So going into the spring training, then I think my pitching staff, even though I haven't made a lot of changes, I think I did improve it in a couple ways. Mainly, Devon Ketchum is now off the DL. Hopefully, he'll stay healthy. He's got some really good ratings. He can be a starter, but I'm probably not going to use him as a starter. And I've got now 3 4.5-star rated relievers in my bullpen. I think that's the best I've looked in a while, several years. Corey Line was solid as a closer last year. I hope he can match that again. So I think my bullpen's been improved quite a bit. And some of these young guys I think are going to be better this year, just having another year under their belt, like Castro and Berger. I think those 2 guys might be even stronger this year. I did not get that number 1 ace that I've been missing for really since I've started this playthrough. But it was tough, as I said, to pull the trigger on guys who were listed as fragile, or were kind of borderline 3, maybe 2 and 3 as far as the rotation goes. I wouldn't have put him as a top starter in my rotation, maybe like mid rotation at the best, and they were wanting 20 to 25 million a year in some cases. So I had to pass. One thing that's really interesting though is Chris Ollis is now, the scouting on him has turned from he's been a reliever pretty much ever since I've been in this playthrough, but now he's listed as a starter. So he's developed 3 pitches now, and there's 3 solid pitches. His control and movement, those seem to be pretty sketchy. For that reason, I'm not making him into a starter, but even the scouting report says that he is heavy on talent and can easily front a team's rotation. So my scout is thinking, hey, I do have an ace on the rotation. It just happens to be this guy, Chris Ollis. But I'm going to leave him in the pen. And I think maybe if injuries happen sometime in the season and I get really desperate in that rotation, or guys aren't performing, I may just give him a chance. And that's going to be easier to do because I've got Morel now who's going to help out in the pen. And if I needed another lefty out of the bullpen, I could probably move Kentelme, who I've got listed as my 6th starter, so he's going to compete for that 5th spot in rotation in spring training. But I still feel like, barring injuries, and their injuries are going to happen, it's like death and taxes, I feel okay about the rotation. Another goal was, sorry, I hit the wrong thing. Another owner goal was to improve my runs scored. It's going to really come down to in the lineup now, moving on from the pitching staff. It's really going to come down to how well can Vanden Heuvel develop, if he's going to really turn into the starting first baseman I need with the power that my scout thinks he's going to have. I mean, he's got some pretty good ratings, definitely against lefties, but okay against righties as well. If he develops, that's going to be a key for me to improve my offense this year. I think Devers needs to have another solid year, and I think Lewis needs to stay healthy all year. Those are pretty much going to be the keys. And I think another key would be Vargas continuing to develop, and he's improving just about every time I pull up the game. He's now at 4.5 stars overall, but his contact rating is going up. When he first came into the league, when I was starting him back in 2028, so last season, or the season before last season, his contact was at 10, 11. So he's already improved quite a bit there. Got great speed. If these guys stay healthy and a few of them go to that next level in production, I think my offense will be okay. So now it's going to just depend a lot on how the rest of the division stacks up, whether Miami's going to repeat and New York, they made some moves in the offseason, whether they're going to be a little bit better. So before we get to simming out the spring training, we'll look at that. We'll look at how the offseason went for some of these teams. This is a screen that I used in the last few versions. I really like this to get a good idea of what teams are making the big moves. And you can see San Francisco, who struggled last year, they're planning on, they put some effort into improving over the offseason. Looks like they picked up a few free agent signings there, several free agent signings. The big one, Chris James, who's going to start off the year on the DL, but he's going to be back in a couple months. So they'll have him probably half the season. So they made a pretty big bet, big gamble there, but in terms of their wins above replacement, how much they gained in the offseason, that's pretty good. In our division, there wasn't a whole lot of movement. I thought I saw the Mets come up there with some moves at one time, but if you look at this, and it's hard to believe, but we actually have the biggest gain or the lowest loss in wins above replacement this offseason in our division. Atlanta lost 4.5. The Mets lost 8.6, and Miami lost 1.7. I take it back. Washington, who finished last year. So let me see what kind of moves they made. So Washington is going to be maybe they'll be on the move this year. Then they added a first baseman who's 2.5 star, nothing major there, and that's about it. I mean, it looks like they went for maybe adding depth to their team, but I don't see any stars that they signed there. So New York, though, they lost a lot. Let me see what their biggest losses were. David Dahl, who was on my team a couple years ago, he had a good year. No, that was a pickup. Sorry, that's not what they lost. Juan Marmolejo, they lost him through free agents, a trade, and they lost Kevin Darby. So they were getting rid of some players this year, but they did Edwin Diaz, Cabrian Hayes. Those are probably the biggest. Nomar Mazara. They did lose a lot. Yeah, Michael Givens. They did lose a lot. On the team. So after finishing, let me see, what did they finish last year? I think they may have been third in the division. I think they finished tied with Atlanta, but the tiebreaker kept them out of that, competing for that wild card game. So they may take a step back this year. But in terms of the rest of the division, I might have a shot because not a whole lot's going on. But I think Miami's got a solid team with a lot of young players. So looking before we go, one other thing I wanted to cover is the Hall of Fame voting. And the results were pretty much what I expected. Felix Hernandez was inducted, 77.4% of the vote. This is his 4th year of eligibility. After him, Kenley Jansen at 71. Depending on who comes on first time next year, Jansen will probably have a shot next year on the ballot. I'm still surprised how much voting, how much David Price is getting. He's actually the top starting pitcher after Felix Hernandez in the voting by a pretty large margin. He's beaten out Zach Greinke. Madison Bumgarner, his first year, got 31.6%. Cueto, 29%. next year's going to be interesting to see if nobody else comes up. It might be a few years before we see another position player in the Hall of Fame the way this is going. But there's some guys who are going to, I'm sure, are going to be eligible next year that might make it interesting. Now, from all these moves, I haven't showcased this screen yet since I've been doing these playthroughs, but this was something that was available in 18, but it's just changed up a little bit, the team chemistry screen. Maybe it's just because we're starting spring training, but they're now like content when they have been pretty much happy for most of the off season. So I don't know what that's about. I didn't bring anyone that's disruptive to the team. I've said before, one knock on Alice is that he has a pretty poor rating, but it's nothing that's disruptive, so that might be okay. But I think this is a screen I'm going to focus on using a little bit more as we go through, just to see if it makes a difference moving some of these ratings up or down. I know one of the things that I thought was kind of neat is your bench coach, who's basically in charge of morale. He gives you your mid-season reports on morale. The idea that he has good relationships with some and bad relationships with other players, I'm interested to see how that plays out, what that may matter or not matter to some of these guys in their performance on the field. I hope it doesn't really affect it too much, because he's got a pretty bad relationship with a lot of my best players. I'm not sure what that's about, but we'll see as we go along. It looks like he favors pitchers more than position players, so I don't know if that's what it's about or if this is just more cosmetic. I don't know if this really is going to have a major impact on gameplay, but we'll see. But I wanted to show that before I got started, and that's what I'm going to do. I've got the lineup set, pitching staff going with the 6-man rotation, which is what I usually do every spring training, and it's going to be usually a battle between, it might even be the bottom 3, although I don't really have anything I can do with Gowdy. He's still locked into a long-term high-end contract, but usually those last 2 guys are competing for that 5th spot. And then in the lineups, I've just kind of mixed and matched, trying to give some of my starters, like Devers, well, not so much Devers, honestly, but I need to give him some rest. But Lewis, Barge, some of those outfielders, give them a little bit of rest, like every 4th, 5th game sometimes, and hopefully keep them keep those injuries from happening during spring training. But I'm almost willing to bet, as soon as I start this, that there'll be a major injury within the first week, but we'll see. So I'm ready to go. If you are, let's go. What I'll do is I'm going to sim until next week, and then we may sim ahead through a couple weeks and see how we're looking before I look at the individual performances on the team. So is there any big injuries? There probably are. Chris Kidd is still out there on the free agency. He's probably the best closer really I see available right now. Although I don't think anyone has signed Irvin Santana. Is that who it is? Edwin Santana? I forget, but I don't think anybody signed him either. Yankees land 3-star, pretty decent overall ratings. Don't like that movement though. A lot of people are interested in Kidd, but we are 3-1 through the first week. So let me take another go through this next week, see how we wind up. And this is not going to be any indicator of how we do in the season, because last year, my last season on that 18 playthrough, we got on a roll. I think we won 12 or 13 games in a row in spring training and finished with the best record in all of baseball for spring training. Didn't really translate. They were wanting to see if I'm interested in Jim Pearson. For Barge, no way. I'm going to reject that trade. One of the things that I also have been playing around with, if you guys have any experience, some of you guys who have 19, if you have any experience with this, let me know. But under the trading screen now, let me see if I can get to that from here. Sorry, I think it's just going to transactions. Well, why am I not seeing that? I'm looking for the team need. Let me see if it's here. Masters and transactions. Trade status. No. I know it's here. There it is. Team needs. It's under the player trade tab under transactions. I just put in a couple position players there, catcher, starting pitcher, and put in, you know, you can go for age max, salary information, what kind of quality they are. And I've been getting some offers from other teams, but they're not really giving me, when I go to counter offer, you know, you get this message, and I'll show you the message you get. You'll get this thing from another GM on another team, and they say, hey, we have a pitcher here that you might be looking for. If you want to discuss the specifics, you know, then you can respond to the message, discuss the trade. But anytime I haven't done really anything right there, but it's like if I say offer them any player, let's just say I offer them Juan Elman, for instance, and you know they don't like that trade, but then I go to make this work and they say you have no players who would satisfy or make this deal work. So I don't know if that's something that they still need to iron out with Out of the Park 19, but I like the idea of being able to fill in these fields and draw those kind of trades in, but I haven't had any luck with it. So every time I've gotten the message for that, it's the teams who send out those messages won't accept any player I throw at it. But I do like that the idea of having that feature available. So if any of you guys who have started playing 19, if you're watching, leave some comments or give me an idea if you've had any luck or if you're having a different experience with that than I am. I'd appreciate that. So let's see, how far have we gotten? So we're 3-2. Let's play the through the next week. Looks like we're playing pretty good, but yep, and there it is. First big injury Zach can tell me. 14 months, so he's done, and might be that his career is going to be done, really, because he's still a few, I don't know, couple years away from developing, and this is going to really set him back. So now what do I do? I guess I'm still not ready to go Alice in that starting lineup, but I will go Moya and see how well he does in spring. We'll see what that looks like. We're playing really good though. Looks like we got another Edwin Diaz. I'm sorry, that's the closer who's out there. Looks like we got another guy doing the same thing. Wants to see if I'll trade for Joe Mann, and I've tried this already with San Francisco, so they wouldn't accept any of my players, so I'm not even going to really try that again. But he would be a definite pitcher I'd be interested in. He's He is a 4.5 star rated pitcher right now. Great stuff rating, and he's had 2 solid years behind him in the last 2 years, playing on a up and down San Francisco team. Last year, I think San Francisco struggled, and this guy still had a decent year. So let's look and see spring coverage. We are 7-3 through 10 games, not too bad. Pitching staff, how's that shaping out? Starting staff is looking really good. Really good. Arudia got hit pretty hard his first start of spring training. A few guys in the bullpen might be struggling, but it's too early for the bullpen. Let me see what the lineups look like. This guy's looking really good. 367 average, and he's getting a lot of playing time, looks like. Canaan Smith doing okay. Vandenhoeven looks good, batting 333. Devers off to a good start. So we got some. Oh, Ochoa. Wow. 3 homers, 12 RBIs, 389 average. So the outfield is looking really good. I hope we can carry that over into. Definitely hope we can carry that over into next into the regular season. Juan Hellman, day-to-day injury, but right now he's not my starting lineup. But oh man, Ketchum's he's out too, but minimal. I'm gonna leave both those guys in there for now. We're up to 9-3. Some ways I hope we don't finish with the best record, because that was definitely a jinx last year. So any big injuries or anything going on in the rest of the league? Oakland is wanting to trade Delgado for Vargas. No way. I mean, Delgado is a great pitcher. You can see 14 wins last year, but he's on a strong Oakland team too, and he is mid-rotation. I really don't want to trade Vargas away for a mid-rotation starter, so no to that. I'm going to pass on these messages right now, because this is a potential five-star starter. Got some really great numbers, but I don't think they would take anything I offer them. So I'm going to pass on that. So how are we looking? So we're now at 11-5, best record in the East. Let me see how much. Probably got another week and a half. Let me see how far we can push this. And I gotta say, so far, knock on wood, I shouldn't even be saying this, but we haven't had any major injuries short of that Kentelme, and Kentelme is not. I didn't really plan on him being a big part of my starting rotation anyway, so I don't think that was a bad loss. I may regret that later in the year when we're struggling with pitching staff, but oh no, here we go, Oviedo. But I feel like, honestly, the guy I picked up in the Rule 5, he's now up to 2-star rated for my scout. I think he's going to pretty much be my backup infielder, the way he's playing, or way he was playing when I checked him out last. So Oviedo, I'm going to have to put on the DL. So he's going to be back in 6 weeks or so. Ah, man. The guy they wanted to trade me, he's out for 5 weeks. He might be having some injury issues. Castro, our closer last year, he signs with Oakland. It's kind of weird because I don't think Oakland needs a closer. I don't know what they'll do with him. Another man. This guy's a 4.5 with the potential 5, but I'm not gonna trade my best players away for that right now. So we're up to 13-9, and how many do we have to play? Looks like we have no game today, but we've got another week. So I'm going to go through and I don't want to, I'll just sim it out one at a time. Yeah, that's a big blow for him. 2 months, 3 months. So lost at New York, won against Pittsburgh, won pretty big 7-2 against San Diego, lost 0-3 to Colorado. Man, I was afraid of this. I think this guy is probably going to be done now. He's going to miss another season. So he missed all of last year, and he's apparently going to miss all of this year. So I guess we can pretty much give up on that guy making it in the league. Big blow. I hate to see that. I may wind up going back to either. It's too early to check the waiver wire, but I might look at free agency and see if there's another reliever I need to pick up. Lost at St. Louis 8-9, a tough one. And now we're close win against Cincinnati. So now we're at the 1st of April. That's going to bring up our big loss for Miami there, Stover. He's 2.5 star. So let me look at this player development update. Jeremy Riley, guy I picked up to back up at first. He picked up a couple ratings there. Mike McCartan, Cameron, Tennessee, who is more than likely going to start in the minors, but he's my future third baseman the way it's looking right now. He's probably a year or two away from that. Mass lost a little bit of contact rating, and Vargas, man, he lost several things there. But this might be, I think there might be something going on. Yeah, he lost in center field. I hate to see that too, because I think he's still an adequate center fielder, so I'll keep him there. The rest of this development looks like it's going to be happening in the minors, but hey, I like what I'm seeing there. A couple guys. So let's look and see how we finished. I'll check out the minors before the season starts, but we did finish with the best record in the East, 16-12. And spring training, who were the big guys? That starting rotation, ooh, Kevin Gowdy looked good, Lockfeld looked good, Farr pretty decent, Shrimsher looked good, Arudia. I think I've got my starting rotation there. Arudia is still, he's up to 2 stars now, so he would fit in pretty well in that 5th spot. And so I usually go with 12 pitchers. 1, 2, 3. So there's a couple guys I'll probably have to send back to the minors, and it'll probably be Maylock and normally, even though, gosh, I don't know about. No, that's Kane I'm looking at. Wow, Kane had no earned runs in 20 innings. But normally, I'm pretty sure I'm going to send him down. I don't like his personality ratings, and he's never really done much every time I've called him up. So I think I will send him down for sure. He has clear waivers. But now the lineups. Let's see. Canaan Smith struggled a little bit. Vanden Heuvel really struggled. Sluzarek, I'm going to have to make a decision, but I think, man, they all struggled. I think it's still going to be Riley and Vanden Heuvel to start out at first. Clemens Arenthal is going to be my backup infielder. Barge had a good spring. Devers had a good spring. Royce Lewis really struggled, batted 175. But he's still a 4-star player. I think, yeah, with a good contact rating, I think he'll turn it around. Mast struggled. His production was good, though. Aylman was okay. Vargas, he struggled. 226 batting average. Ochoa had a great spring. So I'm going to have to, with 31 guys now, I'm going to have to get rid of 6. So that's going to be one more pitcher. And more than likely, that's going to be Maylock. I'll check it out a little bit better when I get through this episode. And let me look one. Yeah, Lesane. Sanchez is going to be my backup for sure. So I'm definitely going to get rid of Lesane, put him down to triple A. I'm going to look a little bit closer at that too. It seems odd to me that the lowest rated first baseman had the best spring in terms of batting. Well, no, Eli Poe. He was okay, but two of those guys are definitely going to go down, if not more. Carton looked pretty good, but I just don't have a room to have that many infielders up there. Cameron Tennessee needs to go down. I think I'll try him in AAA, see if he looks good there. But I'll go ahead and finalize my lineup and rotation offline. But a couple injuries that I didn't want to see. Mainly the injury to the Ketchum there, because I just thought that he was going to be a really good reliever for me, and he's not. He's probably not even going to be a factor anymore, because it's hard to come back if you've missed 2 full seasons. It's going to be tough to come back. And Kentelme, it's a shame for him because he's going to miss out on some development years, because he's still got some pretty good ratings. And he could develop into mid-rotation starter if he gets some time to pitch, but that's not going to happen now. So I'm going to go ahead and finalize my lineups, my staff, and I'll get to the start of the season for the next episode, and I'll probably definitely look at that waiver wire and see if there's anything to pick up there, maybe another reliever to take up for Ketchum. But that's where we'll be next episode. We'll start the season, play out a few games or a few weeks, and see how we start out. And should be able to tell pretty quick what kind of season it's going to be. I have a feeling we're either going to start out hot or we're going to start out struggling like we did last year. And hopefully it's not going to be the struggle, because this is a make or break year again. I really need to make it to the playoffs this year to satisfy my owner. But as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I really appreciate it. If you have any comments you want to make in the comments section, please do. I read them all and try to respond to them when I see them. But for now, I'll look for you on the next episode. Thanks for watching.